Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Mind Renovation Nation. I am your host, Nathan Bush. I appreciate you tuning in. We are here to welcome all small multifamily real estate investors. We're here to help you grow your portfolio. Grow. That's the point of the show today. Growth versus decline. What are we going to do? How are we going to help ourselves grow and grow into the next level? I've put some posts out on Facebook if you've been following me for any length of time, and you will see on my Facebook page, I've been asking some questions. What do you need? What do you like? What would you like to see as far as additional information? And everybody keeps saying, talk about growth, talk more about growth. And so I got an entire show today dedicated to help you grow. Now, here's the thing. Growth isn't a one size fits all strategy, okay? We cannot talk about growth from a one size fits all. This is the exact thing to do to grow yourself. I know that for growth to feel sustainable, it can't be a chore. I do know that. So if you're going to continue to grow and grow things, I think there's got to be a higher purpose, because I think without that higher purpose, you're like a car spinning its wheels in the mud without any traction at all whatsoever. And so if you're trying to get growth, you got to think about it from an intentional point of view. How about this? You must know your real estate investment strategy to grow your real estate investment strategy. How about that? John Maxwell talks about in his book, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. He says in chapter number 2, the law of awareness is you must know yourself to grow yourself. How about in real estate? You got to know your real estate investment strategy to grow your real estate investment strategy. And so we got to have a higher purpose. And I think there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of begin to identify what that higher purpose is, even if you didn't think about it from the very beginning. There's ways you can kind of align with what it is that you are designed and put on this earth to do. And so before you can get too deep into kind of knowing that strategy, the first thing I have to ask you is, why did you decide to embark on your real estate journey, your real estate investment journey? Why small multifamily? Have you ever sat down and thought about it, or did you just start buying because you're like, okay, well, I need to have some type of retirement account, I need to have some type of income coming in? So what did you do? How did you embark on your journey? I'll tell you, for me, when I first got started in real estate, it was to get a job. My first endeavor in real estate was to work for an organization that owned real estate as a property manager. And so I got into real estate in order to make income to cover my daily expenses. But I think I have to think back before that in my life. I read a book a while back called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And I read this book when I was in college. And it talked about the benefits of passive income. And I've always been curious in passive income. In fact, I was the type of kid in St. Louis, whenever my dad used to take me to baseball games, I would be walking along downtown thinking, somebody has enough money to buy that building. And so they got me real curious in real estate. And then when I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad and learned about the benefits of passive income so that your income could be covered and you could focus on your purpose. Oh man, that got me fired up. And so I didn't know quite what my purpose was at that time in life. I didn't know what I wanted to achieve and what I wanted to accomplish. I didn't know that part of my purpose was going to be cultivating this community of small multifamily real estate investors and helping you guys to be able to grow your portfolio. When I was young, I couldn't think about those things. But as I got older and look back, what an amazing journey. All those pieces of things that happened that led me right to where I'm at to be able to help you, the real estate investor, grow your small multifamily portfolio. So now that we kind of have started to think about the concept, and I know it, if you have thought about it, or this is the first time you're thinking about it, why don't you go ahead and put it in the comments for everybody? Why don't you share? Why did you decide to embark upon your real estate journey? What made you decide to get into real estate investing? I'm interested to know that just for my own research, so I can make sure I provide better and more content in alignment with where you came from. Next thing, if you're going to grow your real estate portfolio, a number of years ago, I worked for a medical device organization, and my task was to scale the operations of this medical device company. We started with 7 retail clinics, and we grew to over 40 retail clinics. And during that process, The very first thing I did when I first came into the organization, I did what was called a SWOT analysis, And I looked at the strengths of the organization. I looked at the weaknesses of the organization. I looked at the opportunities of the organization, and I looked at the threats to the organization. And then I went through each different piece, let's say, of my marketing team. And I looked at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, threats, and I came up with a definitive kind of plan on what I thought I could do in order to help scale and grow the organization. So for yourself, for your own real estate strategy, have you sat down and thought about your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats or your interests in real estate? If you can take some time to do that, to jot down your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities and threats, I'm going to tell you right now, you'll get some real good clarification on where you want to be. Have you ever done a strengths assessment before or a personality test? Have you ever sat down and kind of identified what are your strengths and what makes you tick and who you are? Well, if you haven't done that, then I highly recommend that you take a personality test, you take a strengths test, and you kind of find out a little bit more about yourself. Because here's the other part of growing a real estate portfolio. You'll never have a portfolio larger on the outside than you are on the inside. You'll never have a portfolio larger on the outside than you are on the inside. And so if you're trying to grow your real estate portfolio, it's kind of important to understand how you're going to grow yourself in order to achieve and hit those goals. And so once you've done a personal assessment, then you can work together with an organization like Red Maples and you can do a portfolio assessment. You can get a really good idea after management fees exactly where your net income is coming from and how much things are going to cost, and utilize your industry experts, people with industry experience, to actually comb through and look through the information within your portfolio so that you can devise a strategy to help you grow. If you're going to do it on your own, you're going to have to kind of break down, okay, here's the cost, here's the income, here's the expenses, here's what I'm going to achieve afterwards. Here's how long it's going to take me in order to be able to do my next deal. Here's what my buy box looks like, right? You've got to do a full assessment of your portfolio in order to know where you're at so you can know where you're going to go. You also need to take a look at all of the expenses on each one of your assets and see if it makes sense to maintain that asset, or does it make sense to get rid of that asset and maybe trade it for a different piece of real estate. In the book that I'm writing that's coming up, Small Multifamily Mastery, you'll identify in there something called penny stock property. Penny stock property. It's a term my business partner and I coined a number of years ago to talk about those properties that you can buy cheap. Unfortunately, the fact that you bought them cheap, you're buying somebody else's problem. And so you've got to do an assessment of your portfolio. You've got to run the numbers. You've got to see when things make sense. And just because it's less expensive doesn't mean it's a better investment for you. So be on guard for what we call or have termed penny stock property. Now, there's three different kinds of people when it comes to finding a direction in life, when it comes to growth. There's three different types of people. There are people who don't know what they'd like to do. There's people who don't know what they'd like to do. These people are the confused. Then there are people who know what they like to do, but they don't do it. And so these people are the frustrated people. I hope you're not the confused or the frustrated, because if you don't know what to do, then that's where it's very important to become more aware, to get more education, to get more information. If you know what to do, but you're not doing it, then you're just living frustrated. Shame on you. Take some action. Do the next step. And then there's the people who know what to do and do it. And these people are the fulfilled people. These people are the fulfilled people. So if you're trying to grow a portfolio and you're trying to get some growth, you got to know yourself and know where you're at. You got to know your portfolio and know where it's at. And you got to know which kind of person you are. Are you the person that's confused, frustrated, or fulfilled? I know it takes some time to actually grow a real estate portfolio. It takes some internal work, guys. It takes some internal work. Our organization didn't go from a little bit over a year and a half ago. We didn't go from 10, 15, our initial units that we had under management, to over 100 units under management without intentional growth, personal and professional growth company growth, and it starts inside, guys. Here's the next thing. You want to grow your organization? Let me ask you this question. Do you think it's important in real estate to follow your heart? Yeah, let that sink in for just a second. Do you think it's important in real estate to follow your heart? From my perspective, I have often found that we can logic everything through. Once we understand and have identified kind of who we are and our purpose in life and what we're working towards, I think it's really important to also to live fulfilled by following those deep things that have been with you. Yes, they were with you 10 years ago, they're with you today, and they're the same thoughts that you're going to have tomorrow. And that's how I know that something's deep inside my heart, because it's the same. It's been consistent my entire life to own and manage and scale real estate. Like I told you, from the time I was a young kid walking past those buildings in St. Louis, I always knew that I wanted to be a part of this community for you. I didn't know how at that time. I didn't know what part I was going to play in this community. I didn't know that people were going to ask me to speak from stage. And I didn't know that I was going to be writing books for you. And I didn't know that we were going to be, putting together local groups that helped educate and tour apartment communities. And I didn't know I was going to facilitate or help to participate in a small group out in St. Charles County, the St. Charles County Real Estate Investors Association. I didn't know I was going to participate in all of that stuff when I was, 12, 15, 16 years old. But today it's part of my purpose. It's part of how I'm growing. And it's part of those things that have always been a part of me, of what I wanted to do. I love helping and educating and teaching. And so those same feelings have always been there. It's never changed. All right. Here's another thing. In what practical ways can you hold yourself accountable to the growth that you want to achieve? In what practical ways can you hold yourself accountable to the growth you want to achieve? Everybody has different things, different goals that they've written out. So if you want to grow and scale your real estate investment portfolio, you got to have a written set of goals. I have mine here. They're on these index cards. I write them and look at them almost every single day, and I highly recommend you do too. But now that I have my goals in front of me every single day and I rewrite them every single day, I have to ask you, how do you hold yourself accountable to those goals? I think you got to do it through a number of different things. Number one, do you pronounce your goals? Do you tell other people about your goals? I don't think you can. Oftentimes, I think it's difficult to hold ourselves accountable. But when we display something publicly and other people get involved in those goals, they ask questions like, "How's that? How's invested in real estate going? Did you buy any more units? How many units are you up to by now?" Those things all help to hold us accountable. You got to write down your goals. That's another way to hold yourself accountable and look at them every single day. Because by actually physically writing down your goal, it takes it out of your head and puts it into reality for the first time. I know that people talk about typing out their goals on different things. However you do it is however you do it. My personal preference is to write them out, to get it out of my imagination and onto a piece of paper. Once it's onto a piece of paper, now I can start to, I have more awareness about it. I can think about it. I can dream about it. I can add tangential thoughts about those things, but I can't do that until it's out of me. Just to think about something doesn't grow it. I know the title of the book that a lot of people have, staked their claim on in personal growth is Think and Grow Rich. And there's a lot of truth to that. It does come from, to be able to be more successful in life does come from our ability to be able to critically think and to think through things. So it does require that. But there's also an action part. And I think the first step in an action step for a growth minded, successful scaling real estate investor is to literally write down your goal. All right. So, what else can you do from a personal accountability standpoint? Maybe you could get an accountability partner. Maybe you could hire a coach. There's a lot of different ways to accomplish the same thing from a real estate investor's standpoint when it comes to accountability. But you can't get from point A to point B without accountability, guys. Everybody, they get into real estate and they're going to be their own boss, and that's fantastic. And I'm really excited for those of you guys that have got that entrepreneurial mentality that it's like, hey, I don't want to be a part of corporate America anymore, so I'm buying real estate. But part of the process of being your own boss, well, it doesn't mean that you're not accountable anymore. Here's another step to grow your real estate portfolio. Get an investor. An investor will hold you accountable. That way, it's not solely you that you're doing the work for. In fact, I have to recommend that you don't do real estate by yourself. I know, right? What a crazy novel idea. Don't do real estate by yourself. Get a team involved. Have multiple people working towards a common goal. When you can have 2 or 3 people working towards a common goal in real estate, you're no longer doing it on your own, and you're no longer just doing it for yourself. There's other people that you're responsible for. I'm accountable to my business partner. I'm accountable to some vendors that we have. I'm accountable to our tenants that we have at this point. So if you need accountability, you need people, you need tools and resources. You need them written down. You need those things written down that you're trying to identify. All right. So then if you want to grow your real estate portfolio, and I'll make this a series, we'll do some more on growth, but if you want to grow your real estate portfolio, you got to not only determine what you're doing now and decide what you want to do, but now you've got to start to actually write out specific objectives that you need to do along the way in order to get you from where you are to where you want to be. So you have your realistic point of view, your dream. Then you also have your realistic point of view, your big dream. So here's where I'm at, my current dream, my current reality. And then I have my future dream, my future reality. To be said in better terms, I have the facts of today and I have the vision for the future. But I've got to take these steps along the way in order to get me to that vision. And so a lot of the challenges that people will have is that they can have the dream and know themselves, but they're still having difficulty growing themselves. So let me ask you this question. You can't go where you hate going. What do you currently not like doing? Make sure you define that. Passion gives you an advantage over those who have no passion. So what are your passions? I would be willing to bet that part of the path from where you are today to that future vision of yourself of where you want to be has to lie and to do with not doing the things you don't like doing and following through on those passionate things that you do love doing. And when you can do that, you will ultimately start to see the growth in your portfolio. So follow your passions, follow your dreams, and tune in to me next time on Mind Renovation Nation, where I'm going to continue the conversation around growth. You'll start to see that we're going to facilitate around this conversation of growth. We're going to have more conversations about growth. So if you have friends, you have relatives that have ever been interested in real estate, share this live cast with them and have them tune in next Friday when we go through more information about your growth journey and scaling your real estate portfolio. This is Nathan again with Mind Renovation Nation. Make sure you like, share, comment, and follow me for more information about small multifamily real estate investment. You guys have a good afternoon. Thanks.